What is up? It is Miguel from Run With It, and we are back for another episode of Art Can Change the World. It's where we interview artists and those who work in the arts industry and hear stories about how art can actually change the world. And today we have our guest, Jessica Paige. So Jessica, why don't you tell them what you do in the arts world?
I am a singer-songwriter and a performer, band leader, speaker, advocating for women in music, yeah, that's, I think, a pretty much a summary of what I do.
Awesome. So staying pretty busy.
Staying lots of busy.
So in that, would you mind sharing a story with us where art has impacted you personally?
Well, I think that if most people are in music, they've found some catharsis in it, some like processing of their reality that they put into music, or at least that was like the case for me. And I think that at least for myself, songwriting was always a way to speak about my emotions and my life and what was happening to me in a way that was very healing. And so it can take you through all of the dark times of life. And you're like, I've been through several dark times of life. I had a brain injury, and
I think you were speaking on. You spoke at somewhere. I'm trying to remember on that. In fact,
yeah. I gave a couple of talks about post-concussion syndrome and what it was like to be like manic depressive and suicidal and all of these different things that come out of not having control over your brain. And so out of that, I was able to create some really beautiful music, but it was, like a really hard time in my life.
Yeah.
And so, music definitely helped me through that time and other moments of life.
Gotcha. Was there ever a moment so you started writing music, but was there ever a moment where you're like, it was personal, but then suddenly you realize, wow, I need to get this out to other people?
Always. Well, I think being a songwriter, I'm never just writing. When I write, I'm not just thinking about, does this feel good for me? I'm thinking about, what are people going to hear in these words? And what are the different layers of meaning that will exist for them in them? Sometimes there's a very literal surface level interpretation to the lyrics that I write, and then a lot of the times there's metaphor, and it's left for interpretation for people to let it assimilate into their emotion and their life however they need it to. And so it's like I have this experience and there's something I feel like needs to be said about it, and that will bring healing or peace to other people, and or just hey, you're not alone in this life experience. After my grandma passed away, who was one of my closest people, I wrote the song called Good Grief that's on my album, and I got a lot of messages from people about how they heard the song and it was exactly what they needed at that moment. Or I was just playing a gig in New York City, and I have this song called If You Fall that's about this grand love that you hope you get to be with them in old age and just be friends and talk about the life that you've had together. And one of the audience members came up to me afterwards and was like, I needed this song, I just went through this thing, and I have to have it, just send me any, a phone recording, something, because it just speaks to me and what I'm going through. And that's the best thing ever to hear as a songwriter. There's nothing better than that, than to know that you were able to help somebody through whatever their emotional experience was by something that you've emotionally experienced. It kind of gives your life a little bit of more purpose.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool.
That is cool. It's been cool in these interviews that it's becoming a running theme when I ask the idea of how it's impacted you personally. It's really the impact of watching it impact other people that inspires other people. So it's really cool to hear that.
Yeah.
And what you do, what drives you. Would you mind sharing maybe another story where you've seen your art or some other kind of art form, whatever it is, impact somebody else?
This is a more difficult question to me because it's so prevalent to me. the stories are like, are you even awake today? Like, look around you, you know, like it's everywhere. It's in everything. It's you driving down. It's the guy driving to work next to you, like listening to whatever music gets him revved up for the day. It affects, it's like the highest consumed commodity in society, music at least. And so it's around us all of the time. It directs us, it reflects our pop culture, it reflects our politics, it reflects our philosophy and religion. And so it's constantly changing our world always, just because it's around you all of the time, and it's affecting you all of the time. You listen to a happy song, you're going to feel happy, you're going to go into your interview, you're going to do a better interview, you're going to get the job that you need to do the thing that you want to do to change the world, and boom, that one song before your interview just like gave you the chutzpah you needed to land the job to do this big dream that you have, to like open an animal shelter or to, you know, work for the refugees, you know, like whatever it is.
Little cameo.
Thank you, Ari. Yes, you're quite cute. Like these, it just, as an artist, as a musician, I have to laugh because it seems like so painfully obvious.
Yeah.
Like I don't need one single story of like watching somebody cry at a show over a song. I have a billion of those moments. Or
That's
somebody
awesome.
saying, you know, this is the song that carried me through this life moment. And those are individual stories. But overarchingly, if you want to talk about art actually changing the world, I mean, think about Michael Jackson, think about the Beatles, think about Bob Dylan, think about all of these characters who undoubtedly created these waves of change for how we exist and how we treat each other, and the messages that they brought to people, and it's very profound.
Yeah, that's one of our other interviews. As Paul Chandler, he was talking about the movement in the 60s within music, how it affected politics, how it affected the war, and how even those artists still today are affecting people. Like young kids finally hear those first chords again, it sparks something fresh and new.
Absolutely.
So.
And I think it's the job of art and music and creatives to be the people propelling change and to talking about change in whatever capacity their philosophies and, you know, heart direct them. But I think that people, unlike news sources necessarily, or politicians or whatever, there's an openness to the fact that we're just two people, right? Yeah. You're more vulnerable to art and music, to hear a message. Like John Lennon, imagine all the people living for today. It's a very simple message. And like there are tons of people who, there's so much conflict at the time that like that message could have been lost to people who just didn't want to hear it, who didn't believe what John Lennon believed.
They would have argued it in a political realm, yet here we're just
in the music, like in the music, it all goes away.
On that, the Same Love, when Same Love came out, right around the issues of gay marriage, and it's like, I think and maybe I'm wrong, but I feel like Macklemore got a lot of people to uncross their arms and actually open their eyes to experiences beyond themselves through this pop rap song.
Right.
Way more than any arguing of politics.
Of politicians,
you know?
or people like jumping up on their soapboxes. I mean, like Lady Gaga just did the best Super Bowl performance of ever, and you know, you can't tell me that singing "I Was Born This Way" like there wasn't a message behind it. There's definitely a message behind that song, which is that we are all people. We are all equal. It doesn't matter. You have to stop judging and being hateful and being prejudicial. And this is on all sides from all people. Like, we have to start loving and accepting people. And, like, I really think that if you hear that song, you're going to hear that message at least a little bit in yourself. And you are open to it more in that, like, capacity than you are like somebody standing at a podium being, we have to love each other, you know, like that's,
I don't know.
That's a little more abrasive than somebody in like a, you know, silver shiny thing dancing around with fire and dancers, you know, like that's just a much easier like way to get through to people. It's more fun at least.
Absolutely.
So, way more fun.
When
like,
she threw the mic and caught the football.
Exactly.
It's perfect. So But yeah, well, thank you for what you do in the arts world. Thanks for joining us. And why don't you let the folks know where they can find your music and connect with you?
So you can find my music at jesspaige.com. You can follow me on Instagram, Snapchat, Facebook at Jess Paige Music. And you can download my album Sweet Nothings Spotify. You can listen to it on Spotify, download it on iTunes or Apple Music. It's everywhere. This should be everywhere. So
We got the cameo right there. So
my puppy Aria.
thanks for joining us. Much more to come from Art Can Change the World.